And we're singing. We're singing. Dun, 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 dun. Time to talk. Beauty and the Bitch.
Morgie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm living for your look today.
It's a look. It's a look.
It's very okay. So wait, you're wearing a band T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. My Chemical Romance.
Oh, Your Chemical Romance. Okay.
No. The band is called My Chemical Romance.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the band called Your Chemical Romance, and and you've also got different makeup today. It's very like kind of heavy and weepy, as if you did a lot of meth and passed out in an alleyway.
Sure, that's fair. It's really throwback to like my emo days, and I'm just feeling like it's been a week, and this is the only way that I can express that and like embrace it.
I feel that. This takes me back. Mm-hmm. This takes me back to when you were truly emo and you wore 14 spaghetti straps tops at the same time.
Okay, you're gonna talk about my layers right now?
I was just mentioning it's
I'm
where it took me.
I'm gonna write a song about the layers.
Okay, well maybe you should. You have many layers, like an onion, or like Shrek,
Ooh, or like Satan, who's actually just a broomstick.
Yep, you unzip my face, it's Satan's face. You unzip Satan's face, it's just a broom that falls over.
All of that resonates so deeply with me.
Because you love Your Chemical Romance.
Okay, it's, the band, they're like, burning up just like a match you struck to incinerate.
Oh, so it's like a classic country band.
Okay, this is insane. You've probably heard of My Chemical Romance because we listen to it all the time, but Gerard Way, he's like their lead singer. He's like super famous in the emo world. He's like a super emo guy.
Oh, see, that's interesting because I know a Gerard Way. It can't be the same person because the Gerard Way I know is a comic book author.
No, it must be a different guy. This guy's the lead singer of My Chemical Romance.
Because it's completely impossible that someone could be so talented that they could, one, sing in one of the best bands of the 2000s, and also write a comic book that is fantastic.
It doesn't seem fair that the universe would let that happen, so they must be different people.
And also, he's really hot, too. Or at least he used to be.
Oh, he was, though. What an icon.
Oh, my God.
He was.
You know what? I have to drop the facade. I fucking love My Chemical Romance.
Right?
And I used to have such a crush on Gerard.
They bang. Every song slaps on the first 3 albums. Like, everything was good. Black Parade?
Oh my God.
Girl.
That was my favorite album. I used to put on
it.
my big fuck off headphones in my little bedroom when I was a teenager, and I would listen to that album and cry. It was like so every bit of angst in my heart.
Great karaoke ballads to smash out to. Everything is fantastic. I love them. I got into them because of Sarah Pants. Hi, baby.
Hi, baby.
We love you. She was mad obsessed with them, and I was only too grateful to ride her coattails because they are so good.
We all she essentially, it was contagious, and we all became obsessed with them. It's funny, she brought My Chemical Romance. I brought the musical Wicked.
You did? You brought the musical Wicked.
But indicative of our different styles. And you brought Gonorrhea to the friend group.
Nobody had to keep passing that around. Everything is awful.
If you're involved. Not only is Gerard Way the lead singer for the now sadly defunct band My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, but not really. They were an icon of the early 2000s, and it's done, and that's good. They're not trying to Red Hot Chili Peppers it, still living on.
Yes.
We called it quits, we moving on.
Well, they broke up in 2013, but what I heard recently is high school kids are still listening to Mike. It's still
slaps.
A thing. Yeah. Oh my God.
It still slaps.
They're great. Dude. All of their songs are great. Well,
okay, that's a stretch.
Yeah.
But
most of their songs are great.
Their great songs are great.
Yes.
Yes. Very good.
And it's still speaking to high schoolers, but right after My Chemical Romance, while it was still a very popular band, in 2007, Gerard Way actually wrote a comic book called The Umbrella Academy.
I'm kind of mad, though. It really is not fair that one person should have so much success and talent.
I know. Well, before he co-founded My Chemical Romance, he actually interned at, I think, DC Comics.
Oh, shit!
Yeah, so he was a visual artist major. He was a visual
God.
artist.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
So he did kind of put in the like long yards or whatever
Sure,
they say.
sure,
Like,
sure.
you know, it is really is a
and he
passion.
is deeply talented in both things, so like good for him. It's just not fair.
It's hard. It's like a TFA situation where you're like, I love you, but I hate you, and I hate to love you, and I love to hate you, and for no other reason than because they're so talented.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
Okay, so the first volume of the Umbrella Academy, which is what we're talking about today. Welcome back to another
This is a podcast.
This is a podcast. It's a podcast called Beauty and the Bitch, and my name is Gerard Way.
Oh, I wish, girl.
I
My
wish
life has taken a turn. I have friends in high places. Also, like, he's fully just gushing about himself and
Yes.
how he's an icon.
Yes.
I live for it. I'm Morgan. This is Mick.
And this episode's all about the Umbrella Academy,
Which Netflix has recently adapted as a Netflix original series that has, I think, gotten great reviews in our circles. I actually haven't looked at what the internet thinks.
It's been mixed.
Because it just came out like last weekend.
It's been mixed on the internet. Well, actually, if I can table that for just a second. So, just so my brain doesn't get confused, because you know what? It's a sad little brain. The very first volume of this comic was called Apocalypse Suite, and it came out in 2007. And then the second volume was called Dallas. It came out in 2008.
What was the first one called? Sorry, I was
The
not
first
listening.
one's called Apocalypse Suite.
Okay.
And it is more or less the first season of the show. There are differences.
That's good, though,
but-
to kind of like smash a season into like one thing. Because that gives it longevity, but also like wraps it up nicely.
Exactly. Well, you know what's interesting? I believe, because I read this first volume in 2007 when it came out, and I think it was only like 6 to 8 comics within that volume. So it was actually quite short. And I felt like they pulled it out into a full season without it feeling like too empty or anything.
Sure.
But anyway, and then the third volume called Hotel Oblivion just came out last year, 2018. And then there's a fourth volume in the works. So there was a 10-year gap between volume 2 and volume 3. And in that time, Gerard Way tried to make it into a movie, and then it was a TV series and get optioned. And so finally, after more than a decade of work, it's come to Netflix as an original.
This is one of those cases where it seems like Netflix is the best possible home for this, though.
Yes.
Like the freedom of having a production on Netflix beyond language. Like it goes beyond like the freedom to use whatever language you would like to use, which we are pro, and I think is effective in almost all mediums.
It's
like
fucking effective.
Yeah, it's fucking smart. No, I think it's good. There's other freedoms that you get with Netflix that you don't get with network television, such as the length of an episode.
Yes.
And for this particular show, they have chosen to make every episode just under an hour. They're all like 57 minutes long. I will say I'm only halfway through this series because I simply have not had the time to watch the back half of the season yet, even though I think it's fantastic. And I think a 57-minute long episode for me personally has been a really big commitment for binge watching. So it for me has been a difficult thing to binge watch just by sheer time commitment. But every
10 hours, because there are 10 episodes. I mean, that's a chunk.
But like somehow, I don't know, it's less daunting if things are broken up small, like a 30-minute Kimmy Schmidt something. You can just like run through those or like somehow find time. But like, I don't like to start an episode and like pause it and come back later. So like, it's been difficult for me, and I wonder if other people love a 57-minute long thing. I will say Westworld and other shows that are equally as long are also a challenge for me on my my mental time span. You know,
I feel that. Like Handmaid's Tale for me is like the really good example of like these episodes are all too long because
I feel that
I'm emotionally exhausted.
Yeah. And this isn't an exhausting show by any means.
Not to that level.
But
certainly.
they are long episodes.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually, we said we're going to talk about how the internet's sort of responding. I said reviews have been mixed, and that is maybe even a bit kind. Some of the reviews have been pretty rough.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people feel like the pace is weird. And they do feel like the episodes are too long. And that maybe there's too much filler in them. They did add a lot, I will say. For example...
71% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's lower than I would imagine, honestly.
Much lower than... We just finished our episode for Russian Doll. And that had a 99%. Yeah, so it's a big difference.
That's interesting, though, because, like... I just don't feel that way. Like, this is an example where, like, I just don't agree with how other people feel, and that's fine. But shocking.
Yeah. I binged Russian Doll, and then I binged The Umbrella Academy, because we're recording a double today. And I have to tell you, I loved them both. I thought Russian Doll was a touch better than Umbrella Academy, but I've been really kind of disappointed with the reviews so far. I mean, first of all, this TV show stars Ellen Page, so that's a huge plus for me.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you remember, Morgie, do you think you can name the... Okay, because I realize we haven't really explained much about it. This is going to be a mostly spoiler-free episode, because Morgie literally hasn't finished it, so, you know. So we're doing it for her, but also for you.
But mostly for me.
And it's essentially about a group of adopted siblings. Morgan, do you remember what happens that sets off the whole series?
Yes, there was a happening of sorts on some certain day. 47 women gave birth simultaneously around the world, which isn't special except that on that day when those women woke up, they weren't pregnant.
What?
Yeah, so they became, in an instance, fully pregnant and labor delivering a baby. And those babies, essentially, the idea is that many of them were special, perhaps all of them. Special as in, like, they have some sort of power. Again, I haven't finished the whole thing, so I'm not sure of the nuances of that. But there was a billionaire who was like, I need me these special magic babies.
Hargreaves.
Yes, Hargreaves. And he was like, how many special magic babies can one man buy? The answer was 7.
Evidently.
Yeah, so he bought 7 of those babies and, quote unquote, raised them in a very interesting non-paternal relationship where he did not seem to love them very much and only valued them for any powers and like potential gains that they could bring to his life, right? Like they served him and he like groomed them to be this like superhero troop.
Very much like an X-Men sort of
totally.
tech,
and he called their school, their like upbringing, the Umbrella Academy. So they like attended and also lived at the Umbrella
It's like
Academy.
a boarding school.
And they were the only students to board there. But they were sort of raised as siblings, but like, I mean, they're all adopted. So like, I mean, they're like, they love each other, but like in different ways.
Yes. I don't think it's a spoiler to say there are 2 of them who love each other in a very special way, which kind of icked me out at first. But then I was like, okay, they're really not related. But they were raised together, so I'm kind of like, it's still icky.
But they weren't raised in that nurturing, like, this is your brother sort of way. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, they didn't have that.
It didn't feel as much like a family.
Yeah, they weren't like a they were like subjects. Like, they were even just numbered. Like, they were numbered 1 through 7.
Yes.
Like, it was so, like, not personal that I was okay with it. But I hear you on that.
And they all named themselves. Because at a certain point, they were like, I'm tired of being called 4. I'm going to call myself whatever. Allison. No, Klaus. He's number 4. Do you remember? So let's go 1 through 7. And I'm going to quiz you, and you're mostly drunk, so this will be fun.
Great.
So do you remember who number 1 is?
Yeah, he's, it starts with a L.
Luther.
Luther.
Yes.
And I remember his power, but
What's
I don't know
his
if I should say it. I mean, he's really strong.
Yes, I think it's okay to say their powers. You see all their powers in like the very first scene, so I think that's a fair thing.
You learn a little bit more about him later, though.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to say he is a strongman. A strongman.
Yes, he's that very sort of stereotypical like super strength, super
like I'm a white attractive
endurance
man who is very strong.
Yeah, like a Superman type, maybe without flying.
Sure.
He goes by Hargreaves, the adopted father, his like code name is the Monocle.
Oh yeah.
And that's why in the comic, which I did read the first volume of, he like makes the kids call him that. So like he's like, don't call me dad, call me the Monocle. Just stupid.
Okay.
And I will tell you, it hasn't come up in the show, and it may not come up in the show. He also has powers. I'm just going to leave it there. In the comic. But I don't think that's a spoiler because they really gave no indication that he's going to have powers in the show.
Well, and whatever, if it happens later, nobody will remember anyways. But that's a really interesting concept and would explain a lot about him as a narcissist.
Yes.
It would.
And he is a fucking narcissist.
He surely is.
This is definitely not a spoiler because it doesn't really matter. But in the comic, at least, he won a Nobel Peace Prize, or a Nobel Prize, for his work on Pogo, who's the
butler.
The butler, who's also a chimpanzee. And so he does a lot of work with, like, chimp biology and chimp brain stuff to make them as smart as people. That is fascinating,
and I would love to know more about that part of this world. But can I just take a moment for a tangent? Did you know Prime Minister Shinzo Abe
of Japan
nominated Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize when he received a strongly worded letter from the U.S. government advising them to nominate Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize because he can't be shown up by President Barack Obama.
I thought that was fake news.
No, I think that was real.
Is that real?
I think that was real.
Oh, I thought they found that it was like a forged thing. I just read that on Reddit. I'm not saying that that's true, but I did read that.
Well, I'm not saying it's not true, but I did read it on a credible news source.
If it doesn't, if that's not real, it seems like it could be real. You know what I mean? Which is equally as damning to
definitely
Trump,
a phishing campaign that exists, whether or not it has surfaced.
Yeah. Obviously a prize that man does not deserve. I mean, that's so obvious. I feel like my tongue's gonna fall out of my mouth for even uttering such an obvious thing.
But the monocle, or what's his name?
Hargreaves, the monocle.
Yeah, the monocle. He obviously is a very talented scientist to have achieved, even just based on like I said, I'm only 5 episodes deep, so I only know what I know about him through the eyes of his adopted children. I don't really know much of his background at this point. But he not only has done wonders with the psyche of this chimpanzee butler or whatever that he has crafted, which I know nothing about except that chimpanzee is smart and sophisticated. But he also has done like great things with like robotics and space travel. So like he as a person is a very accomplished narcissist.
Yes, he is. Okay, so Luther, he goes by the name Space Boy.
Oh, I literally don't know that.
They all have, you don't really see it in the TV show, but they all have code names in the comic because I think it happens in the show, but they just don't show it in season 1. They're like a legit like team of superheroes that fight many supervillains.
They like allude to it and have a couple flashbacks, but they don't. I mean, again, 5 episodes deep, they don't talk about it explicitly.
Even through, I mean, you see a bit more throughout the first season, but it's not. They don't talk about. And you know, a lot of the reason is the comic is so fucking weird. Like the first person you see them fight in the comic is the Eiffel Tower, which is a robot. So like, and then at another point they fight like a possessed Abraham Lincoln statue. Like there's a lot of like statues and landmarks they fight.
Weird.
Yeah, very strange. Okay, so that's number 1. There is another twist, which I think you're right, Morgan. We should avoid it with Luther, but something else happens to him that changes him in a further way. So we need to leave that for now.
So he's Space Boy. Good
to know. Do you remember who number 2 is?
Is it Allison?
No, that's what I would have guessed too. She is number 3. Number 2 is Diego.
Okay. Diego.
Do you remember what his power is in the show? It's kind of ridiculous.
Honestly, like he's good at throwing knives.
He's like a Batman type, I think, is the idea. So it's almost like Superman.
He has like precision. I don't know. Is that like a good way to put it?
Well, okay. In the comic, they call him the Kraken, and which is funny. His power is that he can hold his breath forever. So I think he's like more like a Batman Aquaman hybrid.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he's the Kraken, there's like a scene early on in the first couple episodes where they do a flashback. And like, that's a different thing?
Yes, it's misleading. We'll get to that. Yeah, it's very misleading.
Okay.
I'm exactly with you.
Okay.
I'm exactly with you. I don't exactly remember why they it has something to do with him being able to hold his breath indefinitely underwater.
Indefinitely?
Indefinitely.
Oh, dang, I wasn't listening. That's why.
Yes. I mean, that's but I mean, how useful is that really? He's more like a martial artist type of guy, and he does like to throw knives in the comic, but in the TV show...
That's like his main thing.
Well, they can like go around corners and shit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He can't miss.
He like hones them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they kind of changed that a bit, which I think is understandable, because that's kind of a hard superpower to make worthwhile.
And also doesn't super make sense for like a land-based...
No.
It's like Aquaman's not like hanging out with like Batman all the time, because that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, though he does hang out sometimes in space, which equally I'm like, but why?
Still
but,
doesn't make any goddamn sense.
So that's Diego. He's number 2. And he also is kind of like the dark. I would say, well, that might not be true.
He's like a black sheepy sort of.
Yeah, he like gets in
Self-imposed.
fights a lot, and he's super rebellious. And in the show, he's related to the cops, or like he's connected to the cops. I don't want to say how.
He
but
builds relationships.
Yeah, like he knows. He's like on the side of the cops. He's like in that group of people.
Very Batman-y.
Very much so. But in the he even kind of does a Jim Gordon impersonation.
Oh, sure.
You know, he looks kind of like Jim. He wears the coat and stuff. But in the comic, he's kind of like a drug. He's a druggie, and like he's more like a criminal in the comic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They give that role to someone else.
Yeah,
in
they
the
do.
Show.
They sure do. And that's added.
Okay.
And then number 3, we already said.
Allison. She's the famous one.
Yes.
Like, I think, like, any woman who would have to cast themselves in this series would probably be like, I want to be Allison. And she's not perfect, but, like, of the female characters,
awesome.
She's pretty fierce. And also, like, she's rich and famous and beautiful.
Yeah.
Is she in the comics? Also, is that her fate?
Okay, so she's called the Rumor, and her power is,
which I think is a pretty cool name. And they actually do say her name in the show. Like, I know that that's what they call her because they say it in the show. I like Space Boy. I feel like I've never heard that word.
It comes up in later episodes.
Okay.
You do hear it, but it's not as common. I think it's because the thing is, she leans in, she whispers, "I heard a rumor." And that's what like changes. It's like the Scarlet Witch kind of.
Yeah, it's also like a really sexy power.
Yes.
She's very sexy in so many ways.
Oh my god. I mean, she's my favorite.
Yeah.
In the comic, she's not famous, but she is like an intense narcissist. And she's very much like a mean girl type in the comic. And she uses her power to get things, just not fame. So, like, you know, the other things that I'm avoiding spoilers here in the TV show, she says she's used her power to get. That is from the comic.
Okay. Yeah.
I love her. She's played by. Let me look up her name, because she's not Emmy Rav something. Emmy Raver Lampman. Damn, that's a name.
I didn't recognize her from any other like television that I have liked. But I think that she's very good, and that she probably has a pretty good career ahead of her.
I think
she has a very like star of a CW show vibe.
I could definitely see
like
that.
Not to like place her with like this is the level of acting skill she has, but like girl, we all know I'm ride or die for CW shows.
Oh yes.
So like it's not even a bad thing for me.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to see her in the CW and whatever she stars in next season.
Well, it does sound shady. I know you don't mean it shady, but it does sound shady.
I think she'll thrive there.
You know what? And I agree with you actually, because she's very likable. And I think that's why they dropped the whole, like, she's not really that much of a narcissist in the TV show. She's actually like a really kind person.
She's pretty kind.
And that's because I think that actress brings so much like likability to the role. Okay, so she's number 3 of 7. Do you remember who number 4 is?
Yes. Klaus.
Yes. I'm doing all kinds of
these like gay things.
Gay hand signals.
You're like stereotypical gay. Like, what can you tell me? It's Klaus.
Those those wrists are limp. Okay. Do you remember what his power is in the TV show? Do you think it's I don't think it's a spoiler to say what it is.
I do remember, but I forget.
He is called, I'll give you a hint, he's called the Seance.
Oh, right, because he sees the dead people.
Yes.
I don't think that's a spoiler.
I don't think so. I think all these things you find out at least in the second episode.
I think, honestly,
you know all their
like,
powers.
Worst power of all the kids to choose between. Like, I wouldn't want that power.
Because he can't turn it off. Yeah.
And he tries to find ways to turn it off.
Yes, drugs, alcohol, everything else. So what's interesting about him is that in the comic, he also has the powers of levitation and telekinesis.
Oh, see, that's way better.
Much more powerful in the comic.
That's way better. I wonder if he might discover some powers later. I don't know.
I think
that
that's
seems
a
like
good...
they're shorting him.
I think so too. I think maybe in the second season it'll come to pass, if there is a second season. I hope there is.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so too, because I'm gonna be real bummed if there isn't. But he also at one point in the comic dies and is rejected by both heaven and hell. So he kind of is immortal in a way. I mean, kind of.
Fascinating.
I don't know if that will happen in the TV show. Or if it happens, and I'm just avoiding spoilers very sneakily.
Oh, sure, fair. Also, a question I have about his powers of seeing dead people is, like, what does that mean about dying in this universe? Because, like, do all people just, like, linger around his ghost? Because, like, it's not like a Sixth Sense thing necessarily, where there's, like, constantly ghosts all around him, but, like, there are some pretty pivotal ghosts that exist in his world on an ongoing basis. So, like, what does that mean about those people who are dead? Yeah. And, like, what could their fate be? Because also, like, death is very imminent. It's a very imminent part of, like, this series.
Yes. It's not a spoiler to say what brings all the siblings back together, the ones that are able to come back together, is the death of their dad, Hargreaves. You find that out.
It happens, like, 3 minutes in.
Yeah, it's like in the first, that's the inciting incident that starts the whole plot. But yeah, death, there are a lot of dead, you're right, the death is very present in this show.
It's a really important part of this season anyway.
Something that's really interesting, so Robert Sheehan plays Klaus. I don't know about you, Morgan, I know you haven't finished yet, but I think he might be the best part of the show for me.
I think he's really talented. I think compared to the other actors, not that they're not talented, but like he is seamless and believable in his like eccentricities. Like it doesn't feel super forced.
He was in, did you ever watch Misfits?
No.
He's in that. He's one of the characters. And I've never seen that either, but I've heard about it and I've heard it's good.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it's about. I think it's a UK based show. I'm pretty sure.
Like
he's an Irish
nobody
actor.
but Ellen Page is familiar to me.
Yep. That's exactly where I was too. Yeah. So Klaus is at least bi, but probably gay in the TV show, which I loved. I love the queer character he plays.
I think he's gay. I think he's gay and maybe bi.
Yes. Yes. Well, here's the thing. In the comic, he's straight, maybe bi.
Okay.
So I thought, we'll talk a bit more maybe about changes later on, but I love that they made him queer. I think it was extremely necessary because you need that. So much of this family, like Luther and Allison, even Diego, are so like
hard straight.
Yeah. And they're just like they're so binary, you know?
Oh, totally.
Frankly, even Ellen Page as number 7, Vanya, even she's pretty like very binary. So I was
which is weird.
Yeah, I was like, if there are 7 people, one of those people is going to be a little bit queer. Maybe not gay, maybe genderqueer, maybe just odd, maybe, something, but we need some difference in there. And they brought it, I think.
And he did a great job. And also, again, only 5 episodes deep, but like, it seems like his siblings don't know that about him. But to me, it seemed like, not to like assume things about people, but like a very obvious aspect of his personality. But then at some point he like mentions it to Diego. Diego's like, what's her name? And he's like, his name.
That's why I think bi. That's why I think he's bi. Like he's had female relationships.
Which I think makes sense. He seems more like a really fluid person who like is more like gay leaning.
I would totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean, he's the type of boy you see at, like, raves and stuff. He's
totally, like, quintessential.
You're like, is he gay? Probably he's gay enough.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. But he's also really fabulous, and I love him.
He's so funny,
and very troubled.
Yes. Oh, very troubled.
Very troubled.
Well, yeah, I mean, his whole thing is, he's troubled because he cannot control his powers, and the minute he gets sober, he sees dead people everywhere, and it's upsetting. Unpleasant. Yeah. And they're always like bothering him too. It's not just they're there; they're like screaming at him.
Yeah.
So, Okay, so that's Klaus, number 4. Do you remember who number 5 is?
Yeah. He went on hiatus, right? But he's back.
It's hard. Yeah, he's hard to talk about him without spoilers.
I mean, yeah, I can't remember his name, but I do remember his powers.
What are his powers?
He can move between time and space. I don't really know what to call that.
Kind of like a Nightcrawler jump sort of scenario.
Yeah, but he also doesn't have a full grasp of his powers, and they're not always readily available. And again, 5 episodes deep, but it's unclear how he recharges those powers or where he draws the power from because it's not omnipresent.
Yeah.
Right? There are moments when his powers fail him, and that's kind of hard to understand for me.
So it's really interesting. Yeah, I think his powers, it's very confusing in the TV show because, for one thing, they changed it. In the comic...
because they made it different.
Yeah, because they broke it. No, in the comic, he time travel is his power.
Okay.
And he learns what they call micro jumps, that Nightcrawler-esque pop out here, pop in there.
Yes.
He learns that once he travels through time and becomes part of an organization that has to do with time. And that's all I'll say about that. So, but
it seems like the reverse.
In the TV show, it is the reverse. Where like he can really do both, but the micro jumps are easier, so he does those first.
Yeah.
But in the comic, he's probably the darkest character in the comic. Actually, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Yeah, when he joins an organization later on in his story, they give him the DNA of all the greatest assassins of all time. Like they implant it into him, so he literally becomes like the greatest assassin ever.
Dang.
And he kills people with nary a thought. Like he's fucking kind of evil, honestly, except for his love for his family.
I think, personally, that I think he might be one of the better actors in the show.
Agree.
Like maybe like right up there with the actor who plays Klaus. Like I think they're both really, really strong characters.
Aidan Gallagher, that's his name. Yes.
How old is he in real life?
He's young. He can't be more than 20.
Yeah, he's a really young person, especially comparatively. And also he plays a really young person. But he is fascinating.
But what he does... Oh, you're right. Can we talk about his character without spoilers? I'll just say this. He takes on a big challenge for a young actor because he has to really portray a person in a young body. Okay? But he's not... His mind is much older than his body. I'll just say that. And I think he pulls that shit off.
Yeah, I think so too.
So well.
He definitely is one of the more challenging characters. And also, like... he seems to be a central heart of the narrative. Like, like a lot of the other characters maybe like kind of replay the same thing over and over again, and just in like maybe slightly different ways. But he has a lot going on. Like his emotions and like his obstacles are all over the place, and like he is very strange for good reason. And I think he does a really good job with what he does.
I think he his personality really makes sense in this group of siblings for me somehow. He's so like especially because he's 5. So that means
quasi middle child.
Yeah, and he has kind of that both he and Klaus, they're the 2 middle children. I mean, more or less. There are a lot of middles because there are 7 kids. But he kind of has that feel. They both have that feel of like one of them becomes like a drug addict and has all these sort of like queer leanings and othering. And then the other one, number 5, who by the way, he's the only one who doesn't give himself a name, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly, they call him the boy in the comic. But he's like... well, kind of evil. Like, really, like a lost child that has become like a really tough, evil sort of survivor.
Interesting.
And I think that's very much a middle kid type of thing to do.
Seems like it.
Also in the comic, he will never age. He's immortal and will be that age forever.
Dang.
Because of time travel stuff. He's a fascinating character. And you're right, that actor, so talented.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He got his start on Nickelodeon in a 3-person Nick Kids show. I forget what it's called. Mike, Ike, and Dyke or something.
Probably.
I don't know.
Jeez,
probably not that.
knows.
But yeah, something like that. Okay, now, number 6 is the most challenging for you, Morgan, because you haven't finished the series. You learn more about him throughout the series. Do you remember his name?
I remember what he looks like.
Yeah, he's Asian. He's the only Asian one. He's really hot, actually.
He is really hot.
So hot.
Very into it.
His name is Ben.
Ben, yes, yes. I have no idea what his powers are. Zero concept.
Okay.
I only know him barely.
It's not super explained in season 1. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what his power is because it's not a spoiler because they genuinely don't explain it.
Was he the silhouetted?
Yes.
Yeah, and like what?
Yes.
Was that?
So I think he has the coolest superpower. Well, I'm sure it wouldn't be cool to have, but it's interesting. So he's called the Horror.
Okay.
So kind of like your nickname, but with an extra aura. Okay. We all know I'm the whore. And actually I'm just a slut. I never get paid.
I'm just monogamous. Yeah. It's just like a factor of my relationship.
Boo.
Boring.
So Ben, he has other dimensional monsters living under his skin. So he can open a portal and let these horrible monsters out and then suck them back in. Essentially.
That is really cool and also really horrifying.
Yes. So what Morgie was talking about earlier, again, this is one of the very first scenes, so it's really not a spoiler, but you see him use his power, and the reason Morgie was like, is he the Kraken? Is because you see all these tentacles and things, okay?
Yes.
But this is never, I assume they're going to delve deeper into it in season 2 if they get one, but they really didn't explain either his power or his death.
Yeah.
Because he's not present as a living person.
Right.
In this series.
Which, if he is so powerful, which he obviously is, like, how did he die?
That's one of the biggest questions. And you know what? That, I think, because I did some research on it, in the comic, Pogo, the monkey butler, describes him as...
Who I feel like cannot be trusted, but I have no solid confirmations quite yet. But I feel certain.
When I was, without spoiling, when I was where you are, I 100% agreed. Yeah. As far as how I feel today, I'll tell you about it after you finish. But, yeah, I don't, don't be trusting Pogo. I don't either. Ben, though, he's described by Pogo in the comic as the most reluctant of the superheroes, of the kids, to be a superhero.
And in that first flashback, he kind of was. He was like, oh, do I have to? And they were like, do it.
Yeah, specifically, not just all of them, but specifically Luther, the leader type, is like, you have to. Like, there are more of them left. You have to go do it. And I think, and also... I feel like throughout the series that we see on TV, Luther has a lot of guilt about Ben's death. Like, there are various times that he avoids talking about it.
Interesting.
And in the comic, at one point, Allison, the rumor, they're at Ben's grave, which, again, you see this all early episode 1s. These aren't really spoilers. And she tells him that it wasn't his fault. And that makes me think it probably wasn't completely his fault because Hargreaves is to blame for pretty much everything. But I think because he's the leader, maybe he pushed Ben a bit too hard or put Ben in danger some way, thinking he could handle it. And Ben crumbled in some way and died because of it. I don't know.
That would make sense, though.
I don't know. Yeah, it would totally make sense. And then last but not least, sweet little Vanya. Sweet little Vanya. So
Is
sad.
She, though?
Is she, though?
That's a great question because things change. I will say the first episode, my first impression of her was like, there is more to this Vanya person than what she herself has been made to believe. And so I'm not surprised at halfway through that, like, we're getting a bigger picture of who she might be as a person. Even again, if she doesn't know who she is. And I think that I really like Ellen Page, and I think she does a really good job with this meek sort of girl who is more, like, there's more than meet the eyes, and I think it's fascinating, and I can't wait to get home and watch some more episodes tonight to get a bigger picture of who she is, and I like her as the ostracized sister. I think she's really good at that role.
I agree. I think, here's the thing. I love Ellen Page. Having seen the whole series, she's not my favorite part of the series. I will say that. Now, I don't know if that's writing, character, because, you know, the Vanya character is hard as the only unpowered sibling. It's kind of a boring role. I mean, it's like her brother's throwing up buildings, or the brother can talk to the dead, and her sister's
violin.
and she's like slowly, quietly playing the violin somewhere. So, I think it was kind of a challenging role. I think she pulls it off. she's really not my favorite part, though.
I will say, though, as much as, like, she's such an outspoken member of the LGBTQ community, I cannot buy her as a straight woman. They're trying to push this for me, and I was just like, this is a show about superheroes, and this is somehow the most unbelievable part, that Ellen Page could desire the affection of this, like, tweety little man. Like, to me, that was so, like, unrealistic, and I was just, like, resistant to that.
So, they added, except for the possible sibling love we've talked about, they added all the relationships and love interests that you see in the show. Every single one of them. So, I agree.
Which makes sense for, like, people of a certain age. They would be expected to have some sort of romantic entwinings with some number of people.
Sure. I mean, it's interesting, though, that Gerard Way, because once again, as a reminder, lead singer of My Chemical Romance wrote this whole story, it's interesting that Gerard Way wrote them all as more or less single, though.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating, and I haven't thought much about that. I don't know how to delve into that, but it is notable.
He is a very emo person.
He is emo. And think about it, too. Pogo the butler doesn't have anyone. Hargreaves is single. The robot mother...
Though? He wasn't fucking Robot Mom?
Oh, gross. I hope not.
Wait,
maybe.
why?
Well, he might have been.
People love to fuck a robot.
I guess so, Westworld.
It's
I don't
2019.
Know. It grosses me out because of the character of the robot mom. It's like kind of slavish.
Yeah.
And so it icks me out, not on the robot, like, circuit board level, but like on the, like, character level.
I feel certain he was fucking Robot Mom.
I bet you're probably right.
She was very pretty.
She's very gorgeous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that Robot Mom kind of way.
Oh, yeah. Per, like, Stepford Mom
She's a
type.
Super Stepford wife. Yeah. He's definitely hitting it.
Well, okay, you might be right. But they're not married. He doesn't have, like, a partner.
He has no affection for anyone.
And that's very, like, angsty My Chemical Romance sort of plots. Okay, so... Oh my gosh, this is so hard not to talk about spoilers. Can I just tell you, this is a real challenge. All of them.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of twists and turns.
But you also didn't care for Ellen Page and her vying for this male attention.
No, I'm totally with you there. I thought that was one of the stalest parts, and also because it was an added-in thing that's not really super important to her character, it felt extremely forced to me.
It did feel forced, and also, like, if this person was a necessary evil to introduce into the storyline to further the plot, which seems like might be the case, couldn't it have been a woman? Like, is there, like, a gay quota? Like, Klaus is too gay to, like, also let Ellen Page, like, live her truth?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, she's just very unbelievable as a straight woman at this point. Like,
actually, that is I think she's, I think she's fine believable as a straight woman, but that's a really good point, though, because we hardly, gay men is where they always go first. Feminine gay men, right? Because... we tend to be funny. I think that's why, because people can laugh ass. It's much more rare to see a lesbian woman, even in today's world, like a lesbian thrown in. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
And, like, can we just get one of each? Is it, like,
why not?
Too much to ask?
Also, especially because, like, Klaus is so, who even cares who he wants to fuck?
Sure.
Like, that's not the main thing in his life.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a lot more going on, So... I really liked this show, though, because even though there were downfalls, I have to tell you, I thought, what's her name? Cha-Cha in the show.
Oh, yeah.
Mary
she
J.
was
Blige.
Fierce, yeah.
Mary
She
J.
did a great
Blige.
job.
Now, Cha-Cha and Hazel, these two assassins.
Which I think is a great name of, like, a duo. Like, that's
Hazel and
good.
Cha-Cha.
I'm very into that.
Yes.
That's cute.
That they're actually from Volume 2, Dallas.
Oh, okay.
They're actually not in the original story.
Introducing early.
And I have to tell you, all of their dialogue is added in. And I thought that their dialogue was some of the worst writing in the show. And I have to tell you, I have nothing against Mary J. Blige. In fact, the opposite. I really love her. But I thought she was horrible.
I thought she was really cute.
Man, I like... She was cute, but, like, so many wooden lines. Maybe it was the writing. Maybe it wasn't her. But, like, so many wooden lines. And, like, I didn't buy it. I just didn't buy it.
I guess I hear you on that. But also because they're, like, not of this world. You know what I mean? I felt like less critical about the things that they were saying because they come from a different place.
Yes.
Like, it's just not, like, this isn't their normal reality.
Which is fair. I think it's fair.
I think the thing I liked about their banter was, they come from, like, a sort of, like, corporate structure or whatever. And so they would, like, have banter about, like, the corporate structure and, like, living that corporate life. But, like, they don't because they live in this world of superheroes and, like, they have a very different role to play. So, like, their, like, monotonous corporate banter, I thought was just really funny because it's, like, the things that they live in their everyday life are, like, not monotonous corporate things, but they are for them. Like, they work for this weird inner time-space corporation. So, like, I thought that was comical.
Yeah.
But they definitely didn't have the greatest, like, lines to deliver.
Well, there were various times when Mary J. Blige would be like, I don't know, like, this is unacceptable. This can't go on.
Sure.
And I was like, girl, really? That's your reading of that line? You know?
Sure.
Like, no tea, no shade, but no, I didn't buy it.
That's fair.
I will say, you know, a lot of the comic book fans are going to be annoyed by Hazel and Cha-Cha right off the bat because they have very different characters. Now, I haven't read this comic, but I read this online. In the comic, and this is not a spoiler because obviously they went a very different way, they wear masks the entire time, and they're essentially just like Jason-esque killers. They're just psychopaths. And they have some funny lines, but they don't have all this, like, humanizing characterization.
Okay.
You know, like, for example, there's a love interest with one of them, and I'm sorry, is that a spoiler for you, Morgie? Okay, good. Oh, good. There's a love interest for one of them. That would never happen in the comic. That's like Jason having a love interest. Like, that just, well, gross. He kind of has a love interest with his sister, I guess. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So a lot of real comic book fans, like hardcore throwback fans, are going to be real pissed about that because they changed their characters completely.
Do you know how involved is Gerard Way in the Netflix production?
No, I know he's involved. I don't think he's like a producer or a writer or anything on it.
Because I always think that's so interesting because, like, for example, Neil Gaiman is really involved in American Gods, the TV show. And American Gods, the TV show, is turning out to be very different from American Gods, the novel that we all know and love.
Sure.
So that's always interesting when fans are like, but why is this happening? But at the same time, it's like, and the Magicians too. Lev Grossman is really involved in the Magicians. And it's like, you know, they're deeply involved in the process. So it's like changes that they're either okay with or like that they're making themselves okay with. So it's like, is it just things that we have to accept? Like, it's just the new version of that?
So it turns out that he's a co-producer. So he is involved in, I don't know, you know, that's so, a co-producer could be very involved or not very involved. But I get the feeling he was involved. I think it is one of those things, like Neil Gaiman back in our Stardust episode. Throwback. That was like a year and a half ago or something. He says about the Stardust movie, he's like, well, it's not the movie I would have made, but I didn't make it, so that's fine, you know?
Yes, which I think is a really kind way to put any spin on an adaptation. Like, it's not what I would have done, but it's what exists.
Exactly. And I think
I'm sure that's how Tolkien feels about Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. Well, because we know famously his son, Christopher, hated the movies.
Yeah.
Which is so stupid.
I mean, it's an opinion.
I guess it's an opinion. I guess Christopher Tolkien's allowed to have it, but I mean, come on now.
That's wild. It's like, did he even see Aragorn? I mean, we're all shipping that, right?
He must be straight, because otherwise he would have been into that shit. So I think one of the ways that you see Gerard Way's influence on this...
Ways.
Oh, I didn't even notice. One of the ways is the visual style of the show. To me, it's very much a My Chemical Romance visual style. It's like gritty, sexy, dark, but very detail-oriented. Kind of like Wes Anderson in a dark world or something.
Oh, that's great. SNL did like a great, like if Wes Anderson made a horror film, they made like a trailer and it was like legitimately hilarious. And also like, yeah, if Wes Anderson made a horror film, Owen Wilson would be like, who's that murderer? Let's make tea.
Wow.
I think that I see that the most, or I feel that the most in Klaus. And is it because he wears eyeliner? Is that why I feel this way?
His style is very of the characters, he's the most But even like number 5, the boy, him wearing that schoolboy outfit the entire time. Also, that's very My Chemical Romance too.
Yeah.
I mean, the Black Parade outfits are essentially marching band outfits.
I do like when he pulled that. That was like the only thing that would fit him in the closet. He was just like, unbelievable.
Right.
I was like, whoa.
GQ. Now, I did say there were a lot of people who didn't like this, but GQ called Umbrella Academy the first big Netflix hit of 2019. So some people are liking it.
Interesting. I'm not personally sure of all the other things that have come out, but besides Russian Doll, which did come out before this, I think they're the first 2 that I have invested my life in.
That's what I would agree to. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Okay, I have like so much information here. My fucking notes are like a wasteland. Is there anything that you wanted to mention we haven't talked about yet, so I don't monopolize the conversation?
Well, I guess, do you know if they've been secured for a season 2? Again,
I don't.
I haven't seen the end, but it seems like a show that like begs for a sequel.
I will say without spoilers, yes.
Yeah.
It definitely ends on not an end.
Well, and I don't know if you know.
I mean, there is an end, but it's not an.
It's not the end.
They're prepping for a sequel. Yeah.
So Netflix has a show called Friends from College that got canceled after 2 seasons, and I saw some of the first season and just didn't care for it. I feel like if that show got a sequel, like I feel like there's no world where this one couldn't also get a sequel.
Yeah.
I feel like, to me, reading the negative comments on the 71% or whatever, that's crazy to me because I feel like this is a show that in my circle is being really well received and also has like the making for like a Netflix hit. And so it's interesting when things aren't across the board well received. And I somehow tend to always love those shows.
Well, I think this is one of those shows that's made, we are the demographic.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's made
literally,
for us.
We grew up listening to My Chemical Romance, and we're very much like in that worldview. I think it's made for kids in their 20s and 30s. We're not kids, but you know what I mean. I do wonder, like, if my mom saw this show, would she like it?
Lord, no.
So it's not like a...
Oh, that's fair, I guess.
Yeah, it's got a very specific audience.
Yeah.
But I think, frankly, like, 40 and younger, 35 and younger, I think it's probably going to be a win. I do think some of the acting, some of the writing could be a lot better. But the visual style, I mean, everyone's seen where they do, I think we're alone now. And, you've seen it, it's in the trailer. And all the different siblings are dancing in a different part of the house. Like, to me, that's very indicative of this show. It's stylish and beautiful. The music's great.
Yeah, I think so, too.
All the way out.
Yeah.
And, Gerard Way, he wrote a new song for it.
Aww.
Hazy Shade of Winter. Which I think plays, like, in the final credits. But maybe it plays somewhere else, too.
I think it's really inspiring too that Gerard Way had a really great career and will remain an icon of that generation, but that he also like followed maybe even a passion he had before music, right? If he was a DC intern and like has turned this into like a next level career.
He might have been a Marvel intern, I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
But I don't know, whatever, a comics intern.
Yeah, but like I think that's really inspiring that not that like his career in music ended, but honestly like that phase of music is just we're in a very different place now, so there's not necessarily a place for that to be created as a new thing. And so he's channeled his energy into this other thing and like he's going to be able to go on and have many years of like a future career in this industry and like also bring in just like fans of My Chemical Romance into like a new genre of things they can be a fan of. And I think that anytime you can like crossover fandoms is like really good.
Totally.
Yeah. So I'm really excited.
I totally agree. I mean, he might be, as we get older, Gerard Way might become one of the voices of our generation. And he kind of already is, but if he continues with these creative projects and writing, and who knows what he's going to do next? You know what I mean? He might just become a visual artist, and just do art. But I think he's... I mean, terms like genius are thrown around a lot, but for a person to be able to do both of these things so well
is incredible.
I'm already super impressed. And if he starts doing other things as he gets older, I mean, my God, you know.
And I wasn't familiar with the comic book when you brought this up as a thing we should cover. And so when you were like, Gerard Way wrote this thing, I was like, okay, well, that's going to suck. But sure, let's watch it. Like, I had no idea, but I think he's very talented.
I do too. I will tell you, I actually mentioned this to you off the air, but Sarah, our friend Sarah Pence, who I called out already this episode, I was watching episodes with her, and I'd forgotten that I'd read volume 1. Genuinely forgotten, because it's a short volume. There's only 6 or 7 comics within the volume. And I'd read it like probably in one night in college. And I guessed the end of season 1. And I was so proud of myself because I never guess the endings. I don't try. I really try not to. But it was so obvious to me what the end was. And I said it to her, and she was like, oh my God, you're totally right. And I was like, yeah, it's so obvious. And I realized later, it's because I fucking read it, and it was like living in my subconscious. So I definitely spoiled it for Sarah. So I'm sorry, Sarah.
Our subconscious
but I didn't
is a
know.
deadly place.
It is deadly.
It knows more.
It is deadly. It wasn't until I was doing research and I was looking at actual bits of the comic that I was like, oh, girl,
oh, but
I read this.
She wanted me to tell you that you guys aren't friends anymore.
Oh, that's funny because she wanted me to tell you that it's opposite day and you're a fugly bitch.
Oh, well, she just texted me and she said to tell you that she's dead.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to miss her. Okay, so I will say just something I hope they get a season 2 just so they can tell me what happened to the 40 other fucking kids.
Right?
Because
yes,
my assumption
fascinating.
is
like they're just out there?
They're all superheroes and supervillains.
Yeah.
Now. It's very much like an Unbreakable world. You know, like the M. Night Shyamalan Unbreakable. Or the Shyamalama, where there are all these like superpowered people who may or may not know that they're superpowered.
I love this.
I'm pretty fascinated by that.
Yeah, and like what did their moms tell them like at any point in their lives, like woke up one day, wasn't pregnant, then had you.
Yeah. And
end of story.
Oh. I'm not What, if I just realized if they follow the comic, they're all related in a way that's more than just they were all born on the same day.
Ooh.
But that's all I'll say. There is further story there.
Allison kissed her brother.
She kissed her brother.
Incest, 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 incest.
I would kiss him though. He's pretty hot. I will say the guy who plays him.
He's not my type again.
Oh my God! I threw my pin at you. I threw my pin. You know why? That actor is on Game of Thrones. He plays Dickon Trolley or whatever.
What?
Yeah, okay.
Wait, Dickon?
So, I think that's his name.
Rickon as a person?
Tom Hopper is the name of the actor who plays number 1, Luther. And in Game of Thrones, he plays...
Dickon, he's just like somebody's son?
Yeah, he gets burned alive by the dragons. Dickon Tarly. He and his dad get burned alive.
He's a Tarly.
Yeah. Remember in the dragon burns him.
He was
so fine.
Samwell's brother. He's Samwell's brother.
Oh shit, he's his brother. Well, he got all the looks in that family because that Tom Hopper.
They have different moms, I think. Or,
okay.
Yeah, because they have same dad, different moms.
Okay. Well, anyway, whatever. The point is, he is so fucking hot as Dickon Tarly in that suit of armor. Oh my God! I'm gonna pull up a picture of Morgan so you can see because he's
we're just like two peaches on a tree. Shooting for different things. Just like not into it.
No way you're not into him. What? Are you kidding me? You don't think he's hot?
I just don't think he's hot. I mean, I don't care. Shocking. I just don't care for him.
To me, he is, it's hard for me to find a picture here. He is like the stereotypical like beautiful man, which I thought everyone would find him attractive. Kind of like Beyonce or something. Okay, wait.
Yeah, I don't know.
I searched Dickon, like Dick in.
Like, what's another example of a stereotypical beautiful man?
Like Brad Pitt. You don't think he's hot there? He's just not for you.
No, but he is so familiar now that you've shown me this picture.
I think he looks really good in a suit of armor. He looks really good in a suit of armor. Like, he's very much like a neck up kind of actor, which is interesting because in Umbrella Academy it's kind of similar.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. He does have kind of a long face, but damn.
No, that's fine. That's great.
I would fuck him left down.
That's super great.
I will say he doesn't look anywhere near as attractive there. Out of armor.
I kind of like him better like that.
Oh, see, you'd like I want a prince. I want a dick on Tarly. Or a dick in Tarly, which is what I said.
Hey, well, R.I.P.
Anyway, that's why he looks familiar. It's because he was Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But even most of these actors are very new. Hardly any of them have a long
Ellen
career.
Page, the only big superstar in her own right.
And I'm sure the guy who plays Hargreaves, he's a very I forget his name, but he's like a
very recognizable.
Anyway,
asshole.
I would recommend this shit. I would
to anyone and everyone.
Yes, if you like murder mysteries, apocalyptic dramas, family dramas, superpowers, time travel, My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way, emo style, good music, incest.
If you like incest, fans of Game of Thrones, you might like this.
I mean, genuinely, yeah. It's sort of similar. It's a very big story. It's really beautiful. And even What's-Her-Face is funny, even when she...
Ellen Page?
No, what's her... Mary J. Blige.
Oh.
Even Mary J. Blige is a joy. I just think the writing was bad.
Sure, fair enough. Yeah, I agree. If people are asking me, what's hot right now, this is definitely a thing I would tell them. And it's definitely a thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Just with my peoples.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait for you to finish this. We can talk about
I know, me too.
I will tell you just one last little tidbit. This isn't a spoiler, but it's a teaser. Ooh. You know, the kids are named 1 through 7.
Uh-huh.
There are 2 theories about that. The first theory is that he named them in order of importance to himself. So, Luther's his favorite, Diego's his second favorite, Allison's the third. The other theory...
With Ellen Page being number 7, so that would check out.
The least loved. The other theory is that he put them in order of power, from 1 being the least powerful to 7 being the most powerful.
Interesting.
It's an interesting theory.
Wait, who is number 6?
Number 6 is Ben the Horror.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Number 5 is Time Traveling Boy. Number 4 is Klaus.
Okay.
Though I would say, I do think Allison seems to me to be one of the very strongest. And she's only number 3, so I'm kind of I don't know about that. Plus, there's the whole Ellen Page has no powers and she's number 7 thing. But, yeah, I just think if that's the case, Allison should be further down. Because that's mega
interesting,
powerful.
though, because he does make, what's his name, number 1?
Yeah, Space Boy, Luther.
Luther.
Yeah.
He's the leader.
Mm-hmm.
So
but also the least powerful.
But he is, though. It's very
Captain America.
Yeah.
Captain America's very powerful, but compared to, the Scarlet Witch.
Sure, he's just the vanilla guy who's I'm strong and stuff.
Exactly.
I got a little shield.
Yeah,
it's a very powerful shield, but... Y'all, he's just walking around carrying a circle.
Yeah, his real power is his leadership ability and his fucking morals. Really.
Which is so annoying. Yeah. So annoying.
He's fuckable.
That's why he doesn't really have any friends.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Over time, he loses most of them. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So, y'all should watch this. I mean, it's all available on Netflix. 10 episodes, about an hour each. I'd say break it up into a couple binges. Probably don't want to do 10 hours all at once, like you said.
That'd be hard. Yeah.
It's not dark the way Handmaid's Tale is dark. It's not going to be hard that way. No. It's just...
it's just a lot of information.
Well, it's kind of like Russian Doll, in that a lot gets thrown at you and you kind of have to sift through it and figure out how it all fits together. And frankly, like we said... And also like Russian Doll, the questions are not all answered at the end. So don't think you're going to get a pretty little bow, because there isn't a pretty little bow.
So I've got that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Morgie, I've got a really good plug this week.
Mm-hmm,
No, don't lie.
Okay, but
Stop trying to be me, Morgan.
I invented
You'll never be me. You'll never be me.
Okay,
so so this week, I am plugging a new Hulu show that no one is fucking talking about in my group or in my circle, and I'm over it. Everyone should be talking about this show.
Okay, girl.
It's called Pin 15, penis. And it's a Hulu original, and it stars Maya Erskine and Anna Konkle, who are both 31 years old this year. And they both play 7th graders in the year 2000. So it's like a coming-of-age tale.
Love it.
Let me tell you, first of all, they're both so fucking funny. They're really talented, both of them. And I don't know either of them from anything. So I was really pleasantly surprised by their comic timing and likability. So that's one thing going for it.
Also,
second
like,
thing,
they're like us, right?
they are literally, it's 7th grade in the year 2000, which is when you and I were in 7th grade. And they're our age now. So, like, literally, we are, once again, the demographic for this show. Though I think anyone who went through middle school will appreciate it. But it is the most true to life, frankly, very realistic portrayal of 7th grade that I have ever seen. So if you are in your late 20s or early 30s, you got to watch this show. Yes, so real. Last little point about it. So there's the first season is all available on Hulu, and Maya Erskine and Anna Konkle are the only two, besides like parents, adults in the series. So like they pretend to be, you know, they're playing 13-year-olds more or less, 7th graders, and all the other 7th graders are actual kids. So just, it's so fucking funny. It will also make you cry. I will tell you, there's some dramedy in there. But overall, it's really heartwarming and another really good example of a friendship that is not toxic and is not bullshit. Like, they're really good close friends, and it's really sweet.
I want to see that. I have seen like several previews of it and had it suggested to me. I just like haven't got around to it, but it's in like my periphery, and it definitely sounds like something I would love.
You're 100% gonna like it.
Do you know like what's the how long is each episode? Like 30 minutes or less?
I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it's definitely shorter than the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
I can tell you that just from watching it, it was over like that, and I was like, no.
I like 30 or 40 minute show is like a sweet spot for me personally.
Yeah.
It's a Hulu original.
It is.
And do they use like all of their language fully and freely, or is it like a censored sort of show?
If it's censored, I didn't even notice.
Okay.
It's censored very well if it is censored, but no, I'm pretty sure they cuss, and there's some pretty they definitely cuss a lot. Yeah, no, it's not censored at all.
Cool. Awesome. So check out Pen 15 on Hulu. Penis.
Penis.
And also we've got a podcast recommendation for you guys. What? Yeah, as fans of all things pop culture, which you definitely are if you're listening to us for an hour and 5 minutes talk about the Umbrella Academy and the nuances of Gerard Way's career trajectory. And girl, that face, such an icon. Mascara. So chic. So chic.
That stringy black hair. Take me there.
I'm there for it. And anything with an umbrella and raindrops, like, girl.
The angst. The angst.
I'm there for it. Our friend from Governor School, Jessica Carson, has a podcast that she does with her good friend Nikki, and it's called Characters on the Couch. And you can get it wherever you get your podcast, and it's more of an exploratory series where they dive into either chunks of episodes, individual seasons, individual shows, individual movies. And they really get into like the nuances of what's happening with the characters in the show. And they just shoot the shit just like we do about what they like and don't like about things and what's good and not good about those things.
That sounds amazing.
All the pop culture things.
Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the pod.
Yes, early supporter. So appreciated.
Jess has been such a great supporter. And she has a fantastic blooming career that's happening. And right now she is preparing for a really awesome thing. She has an off-Broadway show that she wrote that's coming soon. Let me look at her page and see what it's called one more time.
Oh, that's so exciting. So essentially, she is, sort of blossoming into success just like we are.
Yes.
It's the same. Same lives.
It is, though. It's called Only Humans, a #blessed new musical. So check out Only Humans, which is the biblical rock musical coming off Broadway on October 17th.
Ooh.
So that must be so huge for her. And I'm just like really proud to like, I saw this meme pretty recently that was like it was like, it was like one of those where it's like all my friends over there on their Facebook, like, ooh, I just got married. Ooh, I just got kids. Ooh, I just had a promotion. Ooh, my thing is successful. And I'm over here just clapping and being happy for them because we each glow, like we bask in the glow of everyone's success and I love you or whatever. And it's like truly great to see people and love doing like things that are great and living their dreams. And I think it's only empowering and not I don't think it's sad at all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not bitter in any way.
You don't get bitter? It depends.
I'm not bitter. I'm happy for her.
For Jess's success, I'm very pleased.
Yeah.
There have been people who have become successful who I do get bitter about because I know them and I know they're either shitbags or untalented.
Andrew.
But Jess is not a shitbag and is very talented. So.
Yes, she is. Andrew, friend of the podcast. Dr. Andrew Friedenthal. He has like some writing nemesis and he's always like, they have successful projects they're doing and he's plenty successful. He has 2 books out right now. Anyways, but he's always like, you know, my nemesis, such and such. And it's just like a person he went to college with that happens to be doing well. And I think that's hilarious.
Well, you know, I told you though, you know, I have a feeling that I'm like a hexen beast over here. Okay. I can curse people. I don't know if it's true, but sometimes I think it is. And there was a guy I went to college with whose name I won't mention.
Sure.
Because frankly, he died. But he became super successful, like New York Times bestseller list successful for his books. And I was like, this fucking dick. Because I won't say I hated him. I didn't hate him, but I disliked him in college because he was just like obnoxious in class and just a fucking dick, okay? Though he had friends, I'm sure he had good qualities. And then I got so bitter and jealous when he had this really successful book, and then he died like a few months after. And I was like,
That's so sad.
Well, I felt horrible because I definitely sent him bad juju. I was like, oh, you fucker, look at your success. So I'm just saying, and then I felt bad after he died. So I'm saying every time you feel bitter about those people, just realize that they might die tomorrow and they might not be as lucky as you think they are or as #blessed. You know. So
that's interesting. So I went to 2 different colleges, like, right, I split my time. And there were like a couple of like famous people for whatever reason from each college I went to. Garrett Conley of Boy Erase fame, of course, graduated from my college.
Which we did an episode on, but which no one will ever hear.
Our lost episode.
Such a bummer.
God, technological problems. Anyways, but he, of course, we're happy for his success because he's doing a good thing and being an advocate and like whatever. It's fantastic. And then I don't know if you heard recently, there's this story in the news about a guy who strangled a mountain lion to death. Travis Kaufman, Sarah and I went to college with him. He went to Hendrix.
So crazy.
Hilarious. Like my Facebook like blew up with like all the Hendrix people being like, lol, Travis Kaufman, of course he strangled a mountain lion. And I was like, okay, he's riding the wave of that fame.
I was talking about this with Sarah, and I promise you, because like the lion attacked him and then they rolled down a hill wrestling. I can tell you, I would have been dead before that lion touched me.
You were just like self-imposed.
Yes, I just would have like burst into flame, you know? Or like, or he was like on a run and then the mountain lion attacked him. I would have like stumbled at the beginning of the run and broken my neck. Sure, you know what I mean? Sure. Like, what a fucking hero.
Hilarious.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I read in like one interview, there was a headline and it was like, Travis Kaufman says, having a house cat trained him well to defend himself. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, is his house cat, like, abusive? And he's, like, constantly fearing for his life? I
read, because, like, as they rolled down the hill, he, like, he grabbed one paw, and then he was holding down the back legs, because he knew that when you're touching a cat's belly, the way it curls up its body to get you. And so he was familiar with that. So he was able to choke out the mountain lion with one arm, hold back one foreleg, hold down the legs with his legs, and then just the one paw fucked him up real bad.
And he did get fucked up.
He didn't walk out that unscarred, unscathed. But you know what? What a series of fucking badass scars. You know what I mean? Like, even if they're bad facial scars, to know that you fucking wrestled a mountain lion down a mountain and choked the motherfucker out.
That's scary.
I find those scars hot. Those are hot scars to me personally.
That's crazy.
That's not a problem.
Anyway. So, these are the caliber of people that we know. And now Jess Carson getting the success she deserves. She's been very dedicated to her career. It's been inspiring to watch. I commend her. Jess and Nikki, we're happy for your podcast. And we think everybody should subscribe. Go in and rate them 5 stars. It's wherever you get your podcast. Just go ahead and do it. Yeah.
And while you're rating them 5 stars, I just thought, I mean, you could also rate us 5 stars. I mean, it's just a thought. I mean, don't feel pressured. But
barely even an extra step. You're already
takes
in there.
2 seconds.
Thank you.
Aren't you a fan?
Thank you.
No, but seriously, please do.
We
rate
really
us.
appreciate it. And actually, we just read we were looking at our reviews, and we just read an older review that
it's so sweet.
touched our hearts from username Tiffy H from a year ago. Her title was Sitting at the Cool Table, 5 stars. And she said, I get a glimpse of what's going on and what's cool in pop culture by listening to this cute pod. I feel like I get to sit at the cool table, but from my truck.
Aww.
And I think it's a really touching review that's really sweet. And we really appreciate you, Tiffy.
Yeah, thank you for that kind review. Though, Morgan, you didn't read the addendum. There is an addendum, and it
it's
reads,
about you being the beauty.
Reads here. No, Morgan. So you did read the addendum.
Oh, fuck that! I am done with this narrative.
This is not my narrative. Okay. Okay, so thank you for that kind review. Please write us a review.
Yeah.
If you write something sweet, we'll read it on there.
We will.
If that feels like fame to you,
we promise
it is.
to. Even if you're our friend, if you're a person who's our friend IRL, we hear you, we see you, and we're ready to say nice things about you if you just give us the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And it might be your only opportunity if we're friends in real life.
Yes.
Because y'all know how we do.
I mean, you do tend to treat me really badly, Morgan. And I just know it's how you show love, though.
But you also just deserve it.
What?
What?
This is like a girls' friendship right now.
Oh.
I don't know. Like the TV show Girls.
When'd you get your hair cut? It looks okay.
Okay, well, by the way, I love your bracelet. It's so fetch. It's just as fetch as
It's
your
a
fucking
hair tie.
face.
God, you're so insensitive.
Well,
anyways, I
your
love
jewelry's ugly.
You, Mick.
Oh, I love
even
you
though
too.
you said a mean thing. And I love all of our listeners. Be sure to rate and review us and find us wherever we are on social media at B&Bcast. We even have a YouTube page that's lit as hell.
YouTube page, every single episode of the podcast.
Oh, just except for that one single missing episode.
Oh, yes, that 111. We don't know what happened, girl.
We
don't know
can't
where it
find out.
went.
We're not capable.
Girl, I don't know.
It can't be done.
We also have Let's Queer Witcher 3 on YouTube, which is a 40-part Let's Play series. Woo! In which I play Witcher 3. And then we have a good Instagram, B&B
We got
Cast.
all the ones. Yeah.
Also, we've got that whole, if you're looking for a place to listen to the podcast, every once in a while I come across people who are like, I don't have a podcast app. I'm like, girl, we'll just download it. But whatever. If you don't have a podcast app, you can go to bnbcast.wordpress.com.
Uh-huh.
Is that right?
Yep, we have a stream set up there.
We sure do. So you can listen on that website.
Yeah, straight from your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Or your computer. We're not going to be prejudiced about your
iPad?
listening devices.
I mean, I don't care how you listen.
That's a weird thing to do, but I'm okay with it.
What, listen from an iPad?
Yeah.
Wow, now you're being judgmental.
There's just a lot to carry around.
I cannot believe you came at me with this ugly-ass bracelet.
It is a hair tie!
Whatever, it's plain. It looks cheap.
hair tie.
That looks like that cost like 30 cents.
It did,
Morgan.
though.
Well,
it probably cost less than 30 cents.
Sometimes appearances aren't deceiving.
Oh, okay, so she's trash now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we'll see you next week, trash babies.
Bye, babies.
We love you. Bye-bye.
Do you have a home? Beauty in the bed.
You
look.
in the bed.
Beauty in the bed.
Beauty in the bed.